rules, and then they buy their politicians, put them in office, and have their politicians pass those laws, those rules into law. So we actually come up against the state. And Royal Dutch Shell, SWEPI, Shell Western Exploratory Production Incorporated out of Denver, has been very quiet. And in fact, they left us and went to Longmont, Colorado back in 2010. So I haven't seen them, but maybe they put some new plants in and I don't know what they look like. They might be ficus and not geraniums, I'm not sure. So I haven't heard, but the sabers are being rattled by the editor of the Optic. They did an editorial and they're demanding that the Attorney General sue us. They're demanding that the oil companies take action. And so what we're seeing again is pro drillers and media. We know usually owns a lot of our media. Corporations own our media. So they're quiet at the moment. But I'm being very trying to be very humble about that.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think it's on.
Push the button on the right.
Thank you. And we could make assumptions about what you need from people around the state, but can you give us any more specific direction?
Okay. The important thing, and John said this, it's what do we do? What's the action part of all of this? It's about we need the push up from the communities on the ground. We have the most control, the most power when we are a united community, a united county. So we were able to, in 5.5 years, bring that about in Mora County. Every community has a different way of organizing. Every community is unique in what has to be done, but in order to get a community rights ordinance passed, which would be what I would say is the way to go, because that is what I saw so far as giving us some hope and some protection in Mora County. So here in Santa Fe, and we've already had it from you. We've had, as Joe had mentioned, he came out and he spoke and he came in solidarity and helped us at meetings. The same thing happened with people from Taos County, from Bernalillo County, from Mora County. We went to Las Vegas and in solidarity spoke and attended those meetings. So we need to stop thinking of ourselves as being divided by county lines. We need to stop having a vision in our minds that there is a line that divides you from me. We have to realize that we're all a part of nature. And this is my grassroots voice now. That as long as we divide ourselves, industry doesn't have to put any money into dividing us. We do it. We do it on an individual self. So coming and helping in solidarity when you hear and you know that communities are needing your voice. And I've been an outsider in Mora County for 17 years, and I go to those meetings and I speak, and I have been a part of this process all that time, and so I've just had to get used to the fact that I'm an outsider in the county where I live. So don't feel badly if you're considered an outsider from Santa Fe and you go to another county. It's okay. So then on the bigger picture, it's how do you organize here and bring your community together? A community as diverse, as informed as Santa Fe County, an urban environment that has completely different issues than a rural environment like Mora County. How do you bring all of your organizations together at the table to be able to then agree upon starting with one threat, one corporate threat? How do you do that? I mean, that's a huge, huge thing, but that is kind of the fundamental beginning. And so if you can do that, you've gone a long way to healing the entire world. because cancer spreads because of the chaos. And what you're talking about, what we saw in Mora County, is being able to bring together the people and have everybody's feathers kind of stop being so ruffled, all coming together and realizing that there was something beyond our own individual issues. And so John had mentioned that after this, people will be gathering in Annapurna. So anyone who wants to take this forward on a community rights level in Santa Fe County, Santa Fe City, that would be something that would be very significant to really take action, because this is about action. And this is about action on the local level. Is that? Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes. First, thank you for standing up. It takes leaders, and we appreciate the fact that you've chosen to be one. In the time that it took you to get the ordinance passed, did they come in and start fracking or drilling in Mora County, and what's the result of that then?
There were exploratory wells that went back to the 50s. And before they had the latest technology for the current hydraulic fracturing, they could not reach the depths of the resources that are down in the Las Vegas Basin. So they were unsuccessful, but industry knows where their money lies. So they weren't going to go away. All they had to do was come up with the resource, or the technology. And this technology is very new, about 7 years old. So there are no wells that are currently in operation, except for, I'm told, in Wagon Mound, there's one that produces a little bit of natural gas for one landowner there, but it's not a very good, high-quality natural gas. So we've been fortunate. We've been, we took an outside-of-the-box approach. We've been proactive. We knew that once they started drilling, it would be over for us. And we were fortunate to have ranchers from San Juan County come, Chris Velasquez and Gilbert Armenta, who told us. And they said, wake up, Mora County, before it's too late. I mean, you know how when somebody says something that's truth, it resonates? It resonates through your whole being. Their presentation was what gelled our community. I think those two people deserve a huge round of applause by the entire state of New Mexico, because they have been what has awakened us to realize not only would it be all over in 60 years like it is for their county, but that we could actually stop them. And Chris Velasquez said, don't let them turn on their engines, because it'll be over. All over. So we listened to them.
Hi, Kathleen. Thanks so much for all your hard work and dedication.
My pleasure.
Just to clarify what I think I'm hearing, what you're saying is that at the foundation of this is rights for nature, but then it takes a specific single threat to be addressed to work how you guys worked in Mora County.
Well, I think whenever you put in this kind of time, a threat helps. Otherwise, we're all going to be home in our gardens or with our children or doing other things. So yes, and so we had to have a single threat to be able to actually write the ordinance so it could be defensible in court. The community rights ordinance is, at the core of it, is a Bill of Rights. And that Bill of Rights is modified, designed based upon each community. But it has to include some very general things based upon the template that the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund gives to communities to begin with. But ours was the right to water for agriculture, the right to clean air, the right to a sustainable future, and that's an integral part of all of these ordinances, because we believe we have the right to a sustainable future. And if we continue with the fossil fuels, we continue with oil, gas, coal, we will not have a sustainable future. So, and then, of course, there is also the right to the health of the people, and the health of the animals, and the health of the rivers and streams, and the whole ecosystems. And so, yes, that was the core of the Community Rights Ordinance. And of course, in putting that together, we had to have specific aspects that were prohibited. So we were literally challenging and writing out corporate personhood, the Commerce Clause, preemption, Dillon's Rule, and the interface between the Bill of Rights and the prohibitions were all quite brilliantly put together by Thomas Lindsay, so that when if that ends up being taken to court, that can be challenged based upon those pillars of and those legal doctrines.
Thanks, that's helpful. If I might just make a very small announcement. So, trying to build on the success of what they've done in Mora County, there is going to be a training in late July around rights for nature, which is going to address this kind of Bill of Rights approach. So if people are interested in that, probably we'll be able to get information out through Journey, I expect, in advance. So that is coming in July.
And one more thing to add to that as well is that when a community works with the Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, they're very aware of what's involved. And they offer their legal assistance pro bono to the communities when they work with them in paralleling through the process of writing this community rights ordinance. So when that community rights ordinance is fully vetted by CELDF and then passed in that community, then they will legally defend. And then, of course, there have to be on-the-ground attorneys who are representing that community in that county, in that state.
I have two questions. One is, I've been following a little bit about what's been going on in Las Vegas with, I guess the city council had something going on about rights of nature, then the mayor opposed it, and then there was supposed to be people trying to recall the mayor. And is that, how is that related to, what, if at all, with what you're doing and what's going on there? And the second question.
Can you hold that and let me answer this? I'm terrible at holding two questions at a time. I'm sorry. In Las Vegas, their win was so exciting for us, and I think it was definitely very helpful for our commissioners and a big boost. And it was a boost across the country as well. So in saying that, yes, the council in a 3-to-1 vote passed the first community rights ordinance west of Ohio, banning fracking. Now they don't have any mineral leases leased in the city, but they did it in solidarity with Mora County. So, and yes, there's a rights of nature in the Bill of Rights, and a right of local self-government, because again, no matter what the threat is, this is about our democracy. So really, while they were doing it in solidarity with Mora County, more importantly, what they were doing is they were asserting their right to democracy. And what they found, and what we have all seen, is that they do not have democracy in the city of Las Vegas. They have a plutocracy, they have a dictatorship, they have a monarchy. And that the mayor, under the charter, actually does not have the legal right to not sign the charter. He doesn't have that authority, but he took that authority. So that was very interesting. So, you know, we know that we can have 5 million laws on the books, but if we don't have some form of enforcement, then those laws don't matter. Well, that's what happened in Las Vegas. So if your ruler, if your king is calling all the shots, then the people either have to sit back and be at peace with that, or something in between. And the citizens in Las Vegas, who work so hard to pass their community rights ordinance, are saying, okay, we're going to get involved in day-to-day democracy. as mucky and as time-consuming as that is, and as hard a work as that actually is proven to be. So they're doing a recall. And that recall, yes, that recall is going to, I think, if we can all give them some help, and this would be another suggestion, anybody who is at all interested in helping them get signatures, we could organize and have a day where we go out to the barrios and we collect signatures. So anyone who's interested in that, add that to that sign-up sheet, and I'm happy to work with you on that. So let's help them. But so at this point in time, it's democracy in action, and I like to think of the citizens in San Miguel County and the city of Las Vegas as the real leaders of showing us what democracy looks like today.
All right, thank you. And then quickly, I was talking, this is about strategy, talking to a friend of mine who's an environmental attorney about this, and I know a bit about CELDF. I took democracy school in the first wave 4 or 5 years ago when they were here. So I know the fundamental, underlying premise of the whole thing about challenging corporatocracy. But strategically, this person was saying that what you've passed up there is not likely to be held up in court. That ultimately that you'll probably be overridden, and that doing something like we did in Santa Fe County with just stronger regulations would effectively ban them. It wouldn't go down to the principle of things, but it would at least get the job done. And on a more permanent level, that might be a more effective strategy. So I'm just curious, just for you to say a little bit about that.
Well, I've chewed on that a lot, because I would say probably my most helpful people when I first was working on this were people in Santa Fe who were getting me up to speed on the regulatory structure of law, and I'm forever grateful to everybody who helped. But what I ultimately came to understanding was that Mora County is not Santa Fe County, and that we didn't have the money, we didn't have the infrastructure, we didn't have the attorneys, but more importantly, we collectively didn't want a sacrifice zone. And that's what regulation allows, is a sacrifice zone. It was like, is it going to be your land that's going to be sacrificed, or is it going to be mine? And I came at it from a place of, I'm a part of a whole. Jung said that when we left nature, we developed our neuroses. And that's when we separated ourselves from nature. And when we start separating ourselves from one another, when we do the you and me, that's when things really unwind. So I felt that in order for me to be able to heal at all, and this again I'm talking on a personal level here, I had to work to create as much unification within myself and the unification with nature and the unification with everyone else. So the regulatory ordinance to me was one that was divisive, and that it lacked all spiritual qualities, and it fundamentally was not something that I could that I could move forward with. So even if, let's pose this, let's say we had the money in Mora County to put a regulatory ordinance in place that could put the gas wells 800 feet from our rivers rather than 300, because that's what industry was telling us. Or even if we could select the color of the gas pumps. Even if we decided that it was okay that they had them every 2 miles, or they had 5 wells drilled on one platform rather than 2, therefore not destroying the visual of our community. We know that that everything is fluid, and we know that when they start using nuclear devices to detonate, to cause the fracking, it's going to pollute the earth underneath. We know that their toxic chemicals are going to spread, and we know from looking throughout Wyoming and other communities that you can't keep the water from being spoiled. And so, it just didn't make sense, even on a cognitive level, let alone on a spiritual level. So, and people got that. I mean, we didn't have to talk about it. Everybody got it. And so it wasn't a scientific process. It was more let's listen to Chris Velasquez and Gilbert Armenta, and let's pay attention to what we know. And there were a lot of people who've done a lot of studies, so it's not that science wasn't important. Everybody's been looking for science to reveal the latest information so we can decide whether it's okay for fracking or not. But, yeah, so I've exhausted that, sorry.
Two more questions.
Hello?
I kind of want to pick up on that and what you had touched upon earlier. I did the last democracy school, but trying to retain all that in my brain is not really all that possible. But there was something Thomas said and something that you said where he wanted them to bring on the lawsuits because from there is how we could build up from county to state. Now, I can't even possibly remember how he said that worked, but I think that's kind of what Leslie's also asking when they come at Mora County legally to try to overturn this. I thought Thomas talked about a structure, a strategy for that.
Oh, yes, Carmen, and sorry I didn't respond to that. This is very new. There have been very few challenges. There's one right now on toxic sewage sludge challenge in Pennsylvania, but none of the drilling and fracking ordinances have been challenged in court, been taken in court. The city of Pittsburgh industry began to challenge and then they backed away. So it's all new. We don't know. But we can tell from Pennsylvania and Judge Odell Seneca and also from the ruling in New York, even on the regulatory ordinance and zoning, that there is a sentiment change. So we might just have the courts in our favor. But regardless in what Carmen is saying, wouldn't it be kind of even refreshing to use this platform to burst open a movement, to really show that corporations have so many more rights than we do in our own communities, that they can come in and they can pollute our air and they can destroy our streams and our wetlands. You know what? So there is a sense that that perhaps that could work in our mass movement. And of course, these ordinances are singularly focused, but there is a broader goal here. And the goal is to take this and change the state of New Mexico's constitutional law so that personhood is written out. So it's that really has to happen because it's that allowing of corporations to dominate. And once we have 2/3 then of the states in the country, then we will change constitutional law on the federal level.
Yes, just a quick point as far as sitting on our laurels, we can't. The governor apparently made a statement saying when capital outlays come around, something about we'll see what happens with Mora County when capital outlays come around, which is every session. So you know they've already begun.
Well, we know that our legislature is funded by oil and gas money, and we know our governor is oil and gas. I mean, that's not a hidden statement. I can say that without seeming one direction or another. But yes, that's a big deal. I mean, what happens to all of our counties today when we're all claiming that we're the poorest county in New Mexico? You know, there's 33 counties. We can't all claim that we're the poorest. But, you know, what we're seeing is corporations have gone overseas, and our entire economic foundation has been stripped out from underneath us. So we are beholden to oil and gas because that's our only money. So that's an issue, and yet, you know, entrepreneurialism it's quite a, it has a lot of integrity to it, and there are a lot of us, and we can all support one another. And so why don't we go back to the spirit of what we all understand our predecessors, our ancestors, and not have to have everything today, and to work towards something. So what if we can't get the handouts from the state legislature? So what? Why not? I mean, that's part of democracy. That's part of a self, that's part of coming together as a community and supporting our communities. We have to change that mentality. This is, again, grassroots thought process, but that's what has to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, the only county commissioner that voted against this was Paula Garcia, which was surprising to me, and she's also the director of the New Mexico Safety Association. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what her objection was and what your reaction is to that.
Well, that's a big one. Paula Garcia ran on the platform of no drilling and no fracking in Mora County. And that comes across to everybody as being in alignment with John Olivas and Alfonso Griego. But what the wink, wink, nod, nod was in all of this, for those who were peeling off the layers of the onion and going a little bit more to the core, was that regulation allows drilling and fracking. And so if we wanted to add another layer of protection, we, as we did with the community rights ordinance, we were willing to say no and hold a position and work toward that position and see if we could hold that line. Now, Paula Garcia felt that put us in jeopardy. But what she doesn't understand, from what I can see, is that our ordinance says that if our ordinance fails, we can put in a moratorium and we can pass another community rights ordinance. So we have layers built into this process. So I think it's very important that, what do they say? They say if you see the Buddha, kill him. The believers can be blind. Am I a believer in community rights ordinance as well? I guess I am, and so I can be blind. So that's one of the human failings. It's just that at this point in time, in this place in history, when we're up against a threat and a system that allows corporations in automatically through state permits, and then there's nothing that we can do, I would rather stand on that front line, and I would rather wave a picket or bleed a little or do something rather than give away my children's future with a red carpet rolled out for them. So to me, it took huge bravery on the part of our commission to do what they did, understanding the logic of Paula Garcia's comments.
Let's give Kathleen a hand. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Could I make one last statement? And I just wanted to acknowledge Jeffrey Hawes, and he has signed on to a letter of 5 attorneys who is in support of Mora County and is a local Santa Fe civil rights attorney. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Well, we do want to continue the conversation.